Hey everybody, what's up? I never thought I'd be saying this, but I guess we could say it's Happy Sally Acorn Appreciation Day. Yeah, it's kind of surprising, right? But so for today, I decided, you know what, since I'm not an artist or anything, and I can't draw, I can make fan vids, there's no doubt, and I've made countless Sally-related fan vids. I think pretty much everybody knows that. I'm going to do something that I've probably done before, but I have yet to do, really. And that is, I'm going to shoot with you guys. I'm going to shoot with you guys as to why the Sally Acorn character has the following that she has today. Alright? Let me kind of first explain something. Let me kind of give you a bit of history. And I know some of you will debate this fact, but whether people want to admit it or not, Sally was indeed the very first female in the Sonic franchise that was introduced to Western audiences. That's a fact, folks. Now I understand some people will bring up the Magna situation and that whole deal right there. But she was actually the first female character introduced to Western audiences. She's the first official one, along with Bunny Rabbit. But she was the first official one. Her and Bunny Rabbit were the first official ones. And nobody can take that away. Nobody can do that. Now, the reason that is true, the reason for that isn't because of the Saturday morning cartoon in which she truly made a name for herself in, but also the fact for the comic book which she appeared in months before. You see, she appeared in the comic book months before the show officially came out. Maybe even a year or so. But she appeared in the comics long before, not too long before, but mainly shortly before the Saturday morning cartoon came to be. And surprisingly, it was through the comics, and then later on, more so with the Saturday morning cartoon, like I said, that she made a name for herself. And her popularity began. Because you see, for some odd reason, she wasn't like any other princess out there. No. See, Sally wasn't the kind of princess that needed to be rescued on multiple occasions because she got caught by the bad guy. No. She was a princess that was on the field, actively participating in missions, coming up with plans, and actually having to get physical if need be. She actually had to get her hands dirty, if you will. So a lot of people started to like her because she was different. She was kind of like, believe it or not, she was kind of like the Zelda of Sonic. But she surpassed Zelda in many more ways. But you see, the one thing about her and the Zelda character from the Legend of Zelda cartoon, the one thing they had in common was they were princesses that both got their hands dirty if they needed to. Now, the other thing that it made her popular was the fact that was her relationship with Sonic. Now, I know that's a big debate along with people, but that was one of the things that made her popular, because when fans saw her, they saw her as the perfect foil, as the perfect match for Sonic, and you could tell that right off the bat when the series began. When the comic and the series began. You could see you could see that whole relationship between the two made them compatible. You had one that was sort of a cocky ego, like, hey, I can, do this and that, and hey, no problem. I can get that done, no problem. And yet you had somebody that was also like, look, I understand you feel that way, but we need to have a plan before we do this. Or before you go off and do something stupid. So they matched perfectly. And I'm sure, and true, nowadays, fans look at this and, there are fans out there that look at it and say, why do we have to deal with this? Why do we have to have it shoved down our throats? Think of it this way. Ask yourself this question. Why do we have Lois Lane, Clark Kent shoved down our throat? Ask yourself that. The point is this character, in her relationship with the main hero, Sonic, was so compatible and realistic in the eyes of many that you could not help but like her. You could not help but like this character. You couldn't help it. You just had to, you were just drawn to this character. Now, some will say that throughout the years in the comics, writers have ruined her character. Now, I'm not denying that certain writers have done certain things to the character that seem to make you go like, ask the question of, WTF, what the bleep was that about? There's no doubt about that, but that's the same thing with any kind of comic book. You're always going to have a writer come in, a different kind of writer come in and write something that doesn't make a bit of sense. But that's, again, with any comic book or anything. That's basically what that's known as in many eyes, in many people's eyes, is as that those moments are known as LSD moments. That's right, LSD moments. Like basically, they had to be on something to want to write this kind of stuff. Now, one of the things that's really, people have really that put this character, put Sally in the spotlight a lot. The one thing that's put her in the spotlight a lot is the ongoing debate, if you will, of the fact of the debate of, is she the right girl for Sonic? Because even to this day, you have fans constantly out there saying Sonic should be with this person, or Sonic should be with that girl, or this girl. And heck, even someone saying Sonic shouldn't even have a girl at all. He should just be single. And that's perfectly understandable. But one of the main rivals, as they would say, that really many people feel Sonic should be with instead of Sally is Amy. And here's why fans feel that way. These fans feel that way. It's because it all goes back to the fact that Sally was never in the games. Sally was never officially part of the games, and that's why these fans, known as the gaming fans, feel Amy's a better compatible choice, because she is in the games. And again, that's perfectly understandable if you want to feel that way, you want to believe that. But then again, there are those out there that say, look, Amy is not old enough for Sonic. Because according to what they've read in the comics, Amy is still mentally younger, age-wise, than Sonic and Sally. Physically, she may look their age, but mentally, she is not. And it's perfectly understandable as to why some people feel Amy Rose is being shoved into the spotlight with what's currently going on. It's perfectly understandable for people to feel that the writers are shoving Amy into the spotlight because of what's going on. But we don't know that. We don't know that. I mean, nobody does. But you see, it just proves how popular this character here is. I mean, if fans are willing, that fans that support this character are willing to come out and say, hey, I feel the reason this happened to her, you know, almost 10 issues, basically 10 issues ago or 12 issues ago, is because they want to shove this character into her spotlight and into her spot, then it shows you how much dedication fans have to that character. I mean, heck, take a look at this day, September 30th. September 30th. What other characters out there do you know of, comic book wise, cartoon wise, live action wise, etc. and etc.? How many other characters do you know have a day dedicated to them thanks to the fan base? How many other characters do you know of? Not many. I'll tell you, not many. I mean, not even giving her evil counterpart in the comics an Appreciation Day tomorrow. So again, what does that tell you, folks? It tells you the popularity of this character is huge. And again, I understand there are those out there that don't like her because she's not officially in the games. She was not officially playable in the games. But let's look at our history, shall we? There have been rumors and reports that there were several games in development for the Sega Saturn and the Sega CD and even the 32X that was going to involve her and the other Freedom Fighter characters as playable characters. So, the original Sonic Extreme, the Sonic Mars games. Heck, they even had planned to do a Sonic Satayam related video game. What does that tell you? I mean, there is video footage of the prototype, of the demo, if you will, of what that game would have looked like. Again, what does that fucking tell you? Excuse my language, but excuse my language here on the Lord's Day, but which is Sunday, but what does that tell you? It tells you this character has a huge fan base, has huge popularity. And, you know, I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but on this day, which is named after her, it's not an official holiday, we know that. It's an official fan-based day of appreciation. That's what it is. It's a day to appreciate this character. It's a fan base's day of appreciation towards this character. And the thing is, you know, I'm not trying to be biased. I'm just trying to point out a fact. And it's like I've said, I understand there are those that don't like her. I get that. But just because a character is not part of something associated with the franchise doesn't mean they're not associated with the franchise, because they are. Okay, the point I'm trying to make is just because she's not playable in the games doesn't mean she's not part of the franchise, because she is. Let's look at something. Sonic Spinball. There was a bonus stage with her, Bunny, Rotor, and Tails where Sonic had to rescue them from roboticizing capsules. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Tells you a lot, doesn't it? Tells you a lot, doesn't it? The fact is, no matter what you say sometimes, no matter what other people say as well, there's no denying that this character has a huge fan base and always will have a huge fan base. That's the reason for her popularity. You know, you can't deny that. You can't come out and say, oh, you know, this and that. Don't say, well, this is what it is, this is what it is. You can't come out and try to make up any kind of excuse. Sure, you can go on and hate the character as much as you want. Or if you don't like the character for the fact that she's never been in the games, the fact that you probably feel she's nothing more than a Mary Sue and a spotlight stealer, but there's no denying she's got a huge fan base. I mean, let's take a look at the X-Men universe. Who has a huge fan base out of there besides maybe Wolverine? What female? Actually, there's 2 females, in my opinion, maybe 3 that have huge fan bases. But the one that I feel has the biggest fan base is Rogue. Rogue has the biggest fan base. Storm's right behind her, if not they're up there with her. And Jean Grey, Phoenix, is probably right behind them. But to me, Rogue is the one that has the most fans out of the X-Men franchise. But just because she's not used in all the X-Men titles or the X-Men shows, does that mean, she shouldn't be associated with them, or she shouldn't be part of it, or she shouldn't be around certain characters? No! Just because she's not like in every issue of the X-Men that's ever been printed out and has ever existed, doesn't mean she doesn't belong there, because she does. They created her to be part of the franchise. Just like Sega of America created Sally to be part of the Sonic franchise. You get what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, just because you feel a certain way about a character doesn't mean they're not part of the franchise. Just because you feel, oh, this character's never appeared in the games, so they don't belong here. You're wrong. And that, to me, is why her popularity continues to grow. Because the more you say, because the more someone comes out and says, oh, well, she doesn't belong in the franchise, she's not in the games and all that, the more people say that, the more her popularity grows. Because the more people hear that, the more the newer fans hear that, the more the newer fans hear that, the more the newer fans are going to start gaining interest in her and wondering why she's popular in the eyes of some and maybe not popular in the eyes of others. You see, again, the point is, no matter whether she was in the games or not, she's always part of the franchise. She always will be. She's always going to play a major part of the franchise. And whether people want to agree with it or not, she was indeed, as I said at the beginning, the first female in the Sonic franchise that got any national exposure here on the western side of the world. Here in the western animation parts of the world. She, along with Bunny, were the first ones. And they know it. People know that. I mean, again, why do you think fans dedicate one day out of the year in September? Why do you think fans dedicate the last day of September, the first official month of fall, as a day of appreciation for this character? Because they know that they know what this character has done in the comics and in the cartoons. So, and yes, again, I admit, there have been writers out there in the comics that have written her, out of character, have written her and given her those WTF moments. But the same goes for any comic book that has similar situations. The thing is, folks, no matter how you feel about a character, no matter what you think about them, if they're meant to be part of a franchise, they're meant to be. And true, right now, there's a lot of fans that are not too happy about what's happened to her in the comics, and you can't blame them. You can't blame them for wanting to look at someone like Ian Flynn and say, I don't trust this guy. You can't blame them for coming out and saying, you know what, I bet, off-panel, Ian Flynn had Eggman use that blowtorch to cut apart Sally and weld her into a new body, or basically blowtorch her head off and place it on a new robotic body or something. You can't blame them for feeling like that because Ian Flynn did something that, yes, Ken Penders had done it before, but not for this long, and had not gone in this kind of direction, but had done something that they never thought possible. Yes, she's been roboticized before, but many people have said, despite the ass or the jerk that Ken Penders has become, when he did the roboticization, never once did he ever consider weaponizing her. Never once. But Ian Flynn did, and that's what ticks people off. And that's why people have, this opinion of off-panel. He had Eggman off-panel do all this sorts of stuff to her. But that's also why people like myself have an opinion that, are you sure? Because I believe he could have just welded armor on, advanced weaponized armor on her off-panel. But that's another story. The fact is, folks, this character is so beloved by fans, and her popularity